Peace and divine blackness, Grand Kush, 9MGTV. Let's go in with this 9 science, this 9 news. What's on our agenda today? As always, melanin. Do we understand the impact and power of melanin, especially eumelanin? I got some good words up here from the Holy Tablets from Dr. Malachi in New York. In the paragraph number 28, 128, it's talking about melanin, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Eumelanin. When we call ourselves anything related to black, we're saying we're eumelaninites, okay? And there are different degrees of eumelaninites on the planet, from dark skin to light skin with woolly hair, to dark skin to light skin with straight hair. Hair is a factor on the planet Earth. There is a reason why we have woolly hair, okay? And there's a reason why we got to look at us from a spiritual atomic, genetic level, okay? It's all in the blood. When we call ourselves anything, Egyptian, Sudanese, African, African American, now some of us are saying Indian, we got to include Indian in there, and the Indians are included in there, although they have straight hair. You understand what I'm saying? When we call ourselves Jamaican, anywhere from the Caribbean that's dealing with blackness, Africanness, we're saying that we are eumelaninites. From a scientific perspective, from a scientific, factual overstanding, let's get into eumelanin. Okay, before we go into it, though, I want you to pay attention to the great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, rest in peace, and what she has to say about melanin. Let's go.
Black people have the greatest genetic potential to produce the black pigment melanin, which gives off skin color. And since we have the greatest, the highest level of genetically determined ability to produce this pigment that can cause white genetic annihilation, and it's only males who can impose sexual intercourse. And so the focus consciously, subconsciously has to zero in on the males. This is why I say that understanding, I'm not talking about institutional racism. I'm talking about a total system construct that develops out of certain patterns of thinking on the part of people who classify themselves as white. Black people have.
All right. So the great elder said that this focus, this system of racism, the systematic racism focuses in on black men because of the eumelanin, because genetically, using the term annihilate, we could do that to any race with straight hair. You understand what I'm saying? And so when the black race, when the white race and the straight hair mankind races had to come up against the eumelaninites, of course, the description of these great people would have had to be negative in order to develop the thinking that we are superior, that these people were superior and more dominant when they weren't. The systems created, the systems that they created for them to stand in their power, a lot of this has to do with keeping eumelaninites down. A lot of money was accumulated, a lot of riches, a lot of poor bums became somebody in their country from the annihilation of the capital growth, the agricultural growth, the self sustaining growth of Africa and anywhere they went that had Eumelanite people in it. That is a truth. What is melanin? Okay. They classified and described melanin as a dark brown or black pigment found in animal bodies from 1832. The first element is from Greek melas, melanos, which is black. See, we call ourselves black people. There are eumelaninite people, pheomelaninite people, and ghosts. Right? So this word melanin in itself means black. Neuromelanin, brain blackness. Eumelanin, skin blackness. Right? But then you go down, it's in their definitions. What is melanoma? Goes back to black. Tumor containing melanin. Why do you get melanoma? Being in the sun. Melano, look. The eumelanin word, when you look at eumelanin versus pheomelanin, eumelanin is positive. Why wouldn't you want eumelanin? They had to create a system. They had to create trends. They had to create all these stimulative expressions for us to latch onto in order for us not to see ourselves as being the superior ones who brought culture on this planet and to stick to that and stand on business when we distribute the expression. How much of our culture do we even own? We know our culture, but how much of it do we even own? Milano, black, meaning black. Black, dark, murky, noon. Okay. Black of darkish color. The Sanskrits, the Hindus, the Indians, the East Indians, melina, dirty, stained black. Okay, you even got a Lithuanian definition in there. Melanin. Okay, melancholy, mental disorder. Milano connect to a lot of words, even melanie. Okay, let's check out the definition. This is interesting, right? Because this is why you got to fact check ghost information about how they see the world and what's really real when it comes down to the world, when it comes down to reality. Eumelanin, a brown to black pigment that is most common form of melanin. Eumelanin, right? So you should be, what's the less common form? Pheomelanin, a brown to black pigment that is the most common form of melanin and whose functions include protecting the epidermis against damage from ultraviolet radiation. How do you get melanoma, which is skin cancer? It's damage from ultraviolet radiation. Although this is a quote from Neil Singh, sounds like a Hindu. Although we can temporarily raise the amount of eumelanin in our skin by tanning, the baseline amount is controlled by our genes. Now, what is the most destructive thing a person can do if your skin cannot absorb UV radiation than to go tan. And how much of an insecurity is that, right? That you actually don't like the color of your skin, and so you go tan it. You temporarily tan it. They even have eumelanin tanning sprays. They have eumelanin sunscreen sprays today. Eumelanin is the shit. Eumelanin is the culture. Eumelanin is the heritage. The eumelanin is the reason. Eumelanin is the cosmos. Eumelanin is the divinity. It's the ritual. It's the freestyle. It's the rhyme. It's the rhythm. It's how we dance. It's how we do things. That's eumelanin. Now check this out, right? It says research shows that black hair contains about 99% eumelanin. Brown and blonde hair pertain 95% eumelanin. Does that sound correct? How can blonde hair be thrown in with brown hair and eumelanin, and blonde hair is not even created from eumelanin, right? Kathy Waller said that. I don't know what year she said it, and she said, and red hair, 67% eumelanin. I had to look that up. What is the percentage of eumelanin in blonde hair? 13% blonde hair blonde hair contains approximately 13% eumelanin and 87% pheomelanin. This means that eumelanin is present, but in a significantly lower amount compared to pheomelanin. Let's see what red hair has. 3%. Okay, so whoever put this quote, whoever this lady is, she is way off. What does eumelanin do? What does it do? Right? Because they got 3% eumelanin, 97% pheomelanin, and then you got to go into this, understand this MC1R genetic mutation. This has, the elder said, thinking. Okay, this genetic combination of CHON that is mutated from the lack of synthesis of tyrosine, a copper-containing enzyme, causes a being to think a particular type of way, right? Now, in our culture, we know as Africans that there's a people that got to represent life, and there's a people that got to represent death. And what do you think that is? If eumelanin is 99.9% absorption of electromagnetic frequencies versus having a skin complexion and the type of skin that doesn't absorb electromagnetic radiation, it actually repels it. And because of that, we have mutations and genetics that can't synthesize the copper containing enzyme tyrosine correctly or properly. Let's understand. Understanding that chain right there. Okay. Melanin, melas, black, dark. So who are the original people on the planet? Because pheomelanin doesn't even predate eumelanin, like English doesn't predate African languages, like we can get into it, but I'm gonna say there's no language on the planet that predates African languages, even though they'll say language came out of Babylon, Sumeria, and that area, right? I disagree with that. There are 5 basic types of melanin, but the most important is eumelanin, pheomelanin, and neuromelanin. And so if we had to look at the races of people or the people on this planet who identify as they identify based on their land masses or religious discernment or things of that nature, if there's only these 3 categories, then who is who? It's time for you to respect who you are, stand on business, and not give your creations away in the hopes that you may retain some type of fortune when you are the fortunate. They got us looking at ourselves like we're not. Okay? Without us, nothing is moving. And we are in likeness and image of the sun. Without the sun, ain't nothing moving, ain't nothing growing, ain't nothing booming. Okay, there's no consuming, there's not even no producing without the sun. And we are in the likeness and the images of the suns. What does that tell you? Eumelanin. Melanin is produced through a multi stage chemical process known as melanogenesis. What's the first book of the Bible? Okay. Um, I mean, you look at it however you want to look at it, right? Let's just get it right here so we can have the whole thing breaking down. Okay. Just like you can't talk about creation without talking about you melanin. You melanin is CHON plus P or S. DNA is CHON. Atum, Amun, excuse me. The four elements, the four creators, symbolic of the sons. Okay. That's why you should understand the sons and daughters of Re, the gods and goddesses on this planet, CHON plus P, but CHON symbolic of the rays, the gods and goddesses, Odoad, right? Ennead, okay, representing those creative forces. The Odoad, you have the eight. You understand? You have the four physic forces that are activated to bring CHON, the four creative elements. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void. Form and void is one of the Ogdoads. I believe it's He. He and He. You can correct me if I have that wrong. But I know form and void is one of the God pair attributes. Let there be light, electromagnetism. What is the light if it's not a star or the sun first? Okay. And then you have this creation in Genesis, right? The creatures and everything like that. But let us make man in our image and in our likeness. Let's bring this up as well. Because I know you like to use your imaginations. We want to get down to the correct facts. I'm going to use this. Let me see if I can. Let's jump back. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, things of that nature. Okay, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. So when you look at the Ogdoad, you can't talk about one without the other. You can't talk about the pair is the one, right? Male and female in rulership, right? They are the creative forces that brought the Ennead, okay, from the spiritual to the physical, right? But you can't talk about this creation without understanding this periodic table. If you're not understanding this periodic table, how can you understand who you are as a nine ether being, a nature reasonee, seeing things through nature, right? We're not just carbon. Carbon is a part of the source, it's a part of the sauce, okay? But you need hydrogen, you need nitrogen, and you need carbon. And when you add phosphorus to that, you get a eumelaninite being. When you add an S to that, you get a pheomelaninite being. S stands for sulfur. When you start talking about Yahweh, okay, those created in the image and the likeness of the Elohim, the serpent, does eumelanin and pheomelanin play a part in that? It should, okay? Because according to scientific information, these are skin types, these are descriptions, eumelanin and pheomelanin. Melanin is produced through a multi-stage chemical process known as melanogenesis. Okay, this is genesis that they leave the blackness out of it. Greek predates English. Am I incorrect? The Greek language predates English. So when there was a Greek language, I'm saying there may have not been an English yet. So they say English is a bastard language. It's borrowed from a whole lot of different languages, especially the Greek. So did they leave black Genesis? Is it really black Genesis? I would say yay. Okay. When you talk about these lights, are we talking about the elements? The combination and the forming of these elements is intelligence. This intelligence will predate, in a sense, the human brain. Okay, because CHON DNA is life. All animals and human beings and animals on the planet. I don't think there's anything that's breathing, moving on this planet that's not created. At least the base is CHON. One culture, one people have to represent life, the other death. Nine ether is mind, six ether is sex. And so those who are in opposition to nine ether and the natural growth and effects of nine ether are going to exploit it and find a way to distract you from even thinking about who you are as a people. Keep you in survival mode, keep you in struggle thinking mode. Think keeping you in the thought of without them, I can't exist, without those things that they have created by way of theft in a sense, okay? Because there wouldn't be a lot of countries without the uh, theft of resources out of Africa and out of places where eumelaninite beings are at. Okay? In the absence of albinism or hyperpigmentation, the human epidermis contains approximately 74% eumelanin and 26% pheomelanin, largely irrespective of skin tone. with eumelanin content ranging from between 71.8 to 78.9%, and pheomelanin varying in the 20s to 28%. Okay. In the human skin, melanogenesis is initiated by exposure to UV radiation. So when I say there, black people cannot have not originated. Now, if we were here before, the white man was here. That don't make us Indians because they said we were Indians. But black people could not have originated in North America because of the sun zone. Now, you may disagree with this, but it is a fact. Doesn't matter what author says otherwise or your imagination says otherwise. This is why we have eumelanin. Black people belong in not dark, in very sunlit climates. It's not racism, it's the truth. White people belong where the environment is conducive for their skin. Okay. Back then, in order to survive in the sun zone, there had to be a lot of graping of eumelanin night women in order to sustain being within the sun zone. It's telling you right here, causing the skin to darken. Eumelanin is an effective absorbent. What does absorb mean? Okay, because this black is dark, murky and dark. You know what I'm saying? It's stained and all of that stuff. What does absorb mean? Okay, to drink in, suck up, take in by absorption. All right, we understand what absorb means. So that's the etymology. We could do for the definition. Sometimes the etymology is going too deep. So absorb, to take in a natural or gradual way. To take in is connected to knowledge and attitudes. To take in and make part of an existing whole. To engage or engross wholly. Absorb. To receive without recoil or echo. To transform radiant energy into a different form, especially with a resulting rise in temperature. The earth absorbs the sun rays like we absorb the sun rays. Okay, because eumelanin is an effective absorbent of light. The pigment is able to dissipate over 99.9% of absorbed UV radiation. Dissipate, that's like a word. And you MCing, that be like, oh man, that nigga kicking that shit. To break up and drive off, to cause to spread thin or scatter or gradually vanish. So imagine eumelanin is hitting us. It's like invisible electromagnetic frequency just going through the body. You understand? Imagine that. Just going through the body. To break up, to scatter and vanish. Now, this is deep, right? This is deep because this is exactly what we doing now. To spend or use up wastefully or foolishly. That's how we spending our time as a people on this planet right now. We wasting our time being overly stimulated, you know what I'm saying, and groomed. You know, we're steadily being groomed by the beast and the negative forces in nature. Let's simplify this shit. Let's stop talking about all these secret societies and Illuminati and all of that shit. Anti-9 ether is war against you melaninites. That's simple as it gets. Anti-9 ether The opposition to nine ether, it will always be war on the nine etherians, the Eumelaninites. We can't totally assimilate into their culture. They can keep us bonded to the culture. They can keep us in bondage mentally to the culture. They can't fully assimilate into our culture, but they can always exploit our culture, make a grip of money off our culture, become billionaires and millionaires off our culture, scramble for Africa. Okay. This is, at least where Adam was put, if you don't believe it or not. This is Africa and Asia. This story don't even have nothing to do with America, but whatever. Okay. Be fruitful and multiply. Then God blessed them. Okay. Subdue it. Have dominion over the birds of the air. Right. So who is the serpent? Yahweh had to create the serpent, right? Just like he put the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden. But anyway, when you're talking about creation, the original people on the planet, what is Yahweh's what is his instruction for you to do? Listen to him. You understand? You have to follow the instructions of Yahweh or else. Does that sound like uh total freedom? And why aren't you given the right to govern yourselves? When he said, you have become like one of us. When did you stop becoming like one of them? And is this about Eumelaninites, Pheomelaninites, or ghosts? What is the time frame on Genesis? What is the time frame on Genesis when, because Eumelanin, right, it goes back millions of years. It goes back millions of years. There's a whole breakdown. We should know this right here. This got everything to do with food. What is food? Elements, nutrients, CHON, vitamins, minerals. Okay. All that to keep your CHON system running right. When you eat the shit that you're not supposed to be eating, this is what you fucking up. You turning your shit into this. You see this chain right here? Look how clean this chain is. You see how clean that is? That's how clean we are. But then you get down to here, this a lot. Look at the chain. It's not the same. So look, you can't even get the same thinking. Do y'all understand when you say a white man don't have no rhythm? It's because he doesn't. You can learn to mimic, but naturally you don't. You don't naturally have culture. Pheomelanin, okay? Pheomelanin production is highly dependent on cysteine, not tyrosine. Availability, which is transported into the melanosome, okay? And that's transported into the blackness, reacting with dopaquinone to form cis dopa. Cis dopa then undergoes several transformations and mutations before forming pheomelanin. In chemical terms, pheomelanins differ. In chemical terms, pheomelanins differ from eumelanins in that the oligomer structure incorporates benzothiazine and benzothiazole units that are produced instead of DHI and DHICA. So, what this is saying is when you look at this chemical right here, this oligomer structure, which this is called, it incorporates biothiazine and biothiazole instead of DHI and DHICA, which is the synthesis. This is created with this through the synthesis of tyrosine, which is a uh, copper enzyme, copper containing enzyme. Pheomelanins, unlike eumelanins, are rare in lower organisms, which claims that they are evolutionary innovation. Oh, that's the tetrapod lineage. Then you have neuromelanin, right? Neuro blackness, mind, mental, brain blackness. The absence of brain blackness plays a crucial role in apoptosis, excuse me. What is that? Cellular death, right? Programmed cell death in your brain when you lack neuromelanin. We all start to lose neuromelanin with age, right? Nine ether becomes six ether. Nine ether is life, six ether is death. Therefore, related to Parkinson's disease. So, really, how do you connect to the Most High in the spiritual, the positive, spiritual, positive forces in nature? It's through your eumelanin that's working along with your brain and your mind. Okay? That's working along with your brain, neuromelanin, right? What is a neuron? A grayish or reddish granular cell that is the fundamental functional unit of nervous tissue transmitting and receiving nerve impulses and having cytoplasmic processes which are highly differentiated frequently as multiple dendrites or usually as solitary axons which conduct impulses to and from the cell body. And so it's just how we really are activated off of these nerve impulses, right? Okay, so that's what you have right there. Neurons, when them shit's not firing right, your shit is all fucked up. You melanin is important. You melanin is real health, right? Can you dig that? You melanin is real health. So I believe you had these albinos going on way before you had the white race. You had to have these albinos first with the woolly hair before you had the white race, the blonde hair white race, because scientifically they don't go back, no more than 10,000 years. And I'm putting some thousands, I'm saying 6 to 7,000. At least that's when they caused disruption was 6,000 years ago. But in origins, they don't go back no more than 10,000 years ago. Blonde hair, white hair, blue eyed people. You understand what I'm saying? So when you say human, you got to say you melanin. When you get to the straight hair, that's the mankind races. All right. Melanin also protects against damage from high temperatures, chemical stresses, heavy metals and oxidizing agents, and biochemical threats. So, such as host defenses against invading microbes. See, that's what the grocery store is all about. Instead of us growing our food. Salute to the brothers and sisters out there that are actually growing their own food or growing food and able to sell food to other black people for the basis of keeping the immune system proper. This is what the grocery store is for. This is what the hospital is for. All the things that the white man has created to damage, right? Sugar, what is the purpose? What is the point of having sugar? It is not needed in the health of the body. Tobacco, not needed in the health of the body. How many of our people have died to produce these two uh, anti healthy products? Therefore, in many pathogenic microbes, for example, Cryptococcus neoformans, a fungus, melanins appear to play important roles in virulence and pathogenicity by protecting the microbes against immune responses of its host. Hella protective. You see that? I'm sorry. I know I chopped up them words like that. I sounded like I was in the third grade. My bad. But anyway, you got the point. All right. Melanin is the culture. Okay. Melanin is the culture. So when you say black, like I said, you're saying whatever you're tying yourself to, more Hebrew Israelite, Ishmaelite Muslim, you understand, from under Kedar, black Afro American, the Indian, FBA, you're saying you melanin. And when you talk about you melanin, you gotta predate the white man's history, and you gotta understand the periodic table. When you're talking about melanogenesis, is that Genesis in the Bible? Is the Bible in Genesis talking about the original supernatural extraterrestrial black people as gods and goddesses on the planet? You know what I'm saying? But when you understand science and biosynthesis of tyrosine into you melanin, and you think about everything that is created as far as supernatural and spiritual is concerned, you can't say that anything predates black people because black people created it all. Grand Kush, y'all hold it down. That's you melanin. Peace.